Roman Reigns' Universal Championship reign is one of those things that, if you're a wrestling fan, needs no introduction at all. 1,316 days, Roman Reigns would solidify his reign as the longest in modern history and one of the longest in WWE history. But out of those 1,316 days, who could have realistically ended Roman's reign way before it reached that number? And don't get me wrong, the Cody moment was amazing, and it was probably the perfect way to end a reign like Roman's. But in my personal opinion, I believe that there were some places in Roman's reign where it could have been completely acceptable if that person won. Where were these spots? Well, let me show you. Our first talking point starts at when Roman won the title, which was Payback 2020. Well, if he doesn't win the match, this whole reign doesn't happen. So, yeah, that's all I really have to say about that. Our first real talking point, as in when Roman was champion, comes against Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble in 2021. By this point, Roman had already been champion for 5 months, and when it comes to top guys, the average for how long their title reigns are is usually about 6. So that could have been plausible, and then this whole run would have been pretty average for a title reign. But my main reason for saying this is the infamous handcuff situation. No, not that kind of handcuff situation. Basically, Kevin Owens had handcuffed Roman Reigns' arm to one of the steel beams in the arena. He cuffed him there so that he could stay down. Well, what was supposed to happen for this spot was Paul Heyman was supposed to get the keys to the handcuffs and unlock Roman Reigns from the steel beam, and he would get up before the count of 10. Unfortunately, though, Paul was having a hard time finding the hole or something, and oh god, he was having a hard time finding the lock to unlock, and then this causes the referee to just, like, what are you doing? Keep counting. I don't care if this is a botch. Call an audible or something. Damn. My next talking point comes at that year's Mania 37, in the triple threat between Roman, Daniel Bryan, and Edge, where I believe Edge could have very well taken the title on this night and no one would have been mad. As a matter of fact, I saw a lot of people had him as the winner in their predictions list. And why was that? Well, you gotta look at it from this perspective. Edge returned to the WWE at last year's Royal Rumble, where he lasted all the way till the Final Four and then had a subsequent feud with Randy Orton. After said feud, it's very logical to be like, well, maybe he should go after the Universal Championship, as it technically represents the World Heavyweight Championship, a title that Edge never lost. In fact, what people tend to forget when Edge retired was he retired as World Heavyweight Champion. And I don't know about you, but I at least prefer it when a wrestler has a very devastating injury and they were the champion. I prefer them not only getting a title shot, but also winning the title. It's been one of my main criticisms for Finn Balor's character in WWE. He was Universal Champion, had to relinquish it immediately due to injury, and he just never got that chance back. Speaking of which, that's coming up soon. But yeah, with all those factors included, it was very likely that Edge could have won the title, but they chose to go against it. And I'm not necessarily mad at that decision, but if there was any time for Edge to win a title on that specific run with the WWE, it would have been there. The next plausible scenario for me, at least, would have been at Backlash against Cesaro. Now, I know what you're thinking, and just put down the pitchforks for a second. If you were in the IWC in 2021, the IWC was very high on Cesaro, and it seemed like WWE was high on him too. They were giving him a main event level push, and it all culminated with this match against Roman Reigns. So if Cesaro won the title here, I don't think at the time the internet would have been mad. Maybe in retrospect they would have found it questionable, but at the time I think people would have taken it. But in retrospect to how the reign actually turned out, yeah, there was no way, man. I mentioned this match a section ago, and now here I am talking about it. It's Extreme Rules versus Finn Balor. I don't understand what kind of thoughts was running through that you-know-who's head, but for Finn to have this little demonic moment where he just is hulking up or whatever, rising from the dead, I don't know, and then his momentum stops because The top turnbuckle broke? And maybe this could have been fine if we had an answer to who did that or what caused that, but we never got anything. And when I say we got nothing, I literally mean we got nothing. Finn just carried on as if that match didn't even happen. I would have taken a Finn Balor win 1,000 times over whatever the hell that was. Now, real quick, let's talk about day one for a second. If you didn't watch that show, and for some reason you were just going through Cage Match or whatever you were doing, you would notice that Roman Reigns did not have a match at this event. And it wasn't because he was doing some part-time stuff. That wouldn't come until the following year. Roman didn't have a match at day one because he got, let's just phrase it as the thing in the air. And it was because of that Brock gets inserted into the multi-man match for the WWE title, wins it, and then sets up this whole thing. That would eventually culminate, of course, with the championship unification at WrestleMania 38. The original plans for day one, and this is not an exaggeration, this was reported everywhere. The original plans for day one was Seth Rollins was going to win the multi-man match for the WWE title, and Brock was going to beat Roman Reigns. Which means, yes, that is right. The only reason that Roman's title reign is now as long as it is because Roman got sick. So while everything I've said up until this point has been opinion, minus payback, of course, this, to my knowledge, is the only other place where Roman's title reign would have objectively ended. And therefore, it goes on this list by default. And that leaves my final talking point. WrestleMania 39. I'm going to be completely honest with you. As lovely and wonderful and perfectly booked as WrestleMania 40's match was, and before all the shenanigans ensued, in my opinion, it was the better match of the two, I still believe, in my heart of hearts, that Cody should have beaten Roman at Mania 39. Why is that? Well, I'll put it to you in the best way that I possibly can. I think the only reason that Roman retained at Mania 39 was because his title reign was creeping on 1,000 days. They had Roman win so he could stat pad. And the reason I think this is because look at the rest of the year. He barely defends that thing. In fact, the only other time on television that Roman defended the title was at Crown Jewel against LA Knight. Besides that, yes, while he was involved in matches, it was not for his title. Why? Because he didn't know what to do! They got him to this stat pad and they were just like, oh crap! Just do some bloodline stuff and we'll think about it later. And then when they did think about it later, they dared to do Roman Rock for the title, and then God knows when Cody would have actually finished the story. Roman's last year of his title reign was a mess. The only time he defended the title was at house shows, which is safe because then you can just pick anyone and, house shows aren't really canon. So yeah, it was because of this it caused that year for SmackDown to drag and all these things, and it would have just been better if Cody won it at Mania, and then Roman and Rock could have happened without any complications. It would have been non-title, so no one would have complained, and also Cody won the Rumble. Like, what were you... that whole thing is worth a video on its own, honestly. But yeah, those are the places where I think Roman's title reign could have ended. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you maybe have more places where Roman's title reign could have ended? Let me know, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.